Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by, and welcome if you are watching or listening to this, either on podcast or on YouTube, to the inaugural episode of the Game On podcast. I am Jimbo of YouTube's The Jimbo channel. That other gentleman on the other side of the camera is Tyler from Metroids Primed. And like I said, this is the Game On podcast. And a quick rundown as far as what we're going to be covering here. Well, I mean, it's really all there in the title. Definitely video games. We're both retro collectors and modern game players, both avid fans of the video game pretty much all the way around. But we're not going to limit ourselves just to that. We're going to be doing things like television, movie, all things nerd culture pretty much. Like if it touches the hearts of nerds around the world, man, guys, we're two geeks at heart. That's definitely something that we're going to discuss, and just hopefully you can share in our passion for these things. Tyler, how you doing today, partner?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Awesome.
Excited to get this new podcast started.
You and me both. A little quick funny story for you guys, as far as where Tyler and I came up with this. This is basically just the offspring of a conversation that he and I had when we were catching up, and we both had mentioned that, we had considered starting a podcast, and the kind of mutual light bulb went off, and like, well, why don't we just do one together? And I was like, well, shit, I guess that's what we should do. So it's better than sit here and talking, to myself effectively to the camera. It's a lot easier to talk to somebody, and who better than, a fellow member of the retro gaming community. Tyler and I have been friends for a while, so I just figured, yeah, man, let's get our heads together and let's do this.
Well, I think, Jimbo, the first thing we ought to talk about is what we've been playing lately, because we haven't actually played any games together in quite a while now. So
it has been a while.
I'd like to know what you've been playing lately, buddy.
Well, let's see. Lately, I just got, and I played this on the 360 version with you, actually. Payday. I remember that was the first game you and I played together, actually.
Yep.
We went out and bought it. Okay, so a buddy of mine basically gifted me an Xbone gift card because he bought the upgraded version of Payday for the Xbox One, and he was a big fan of that. He and I played a lot together. And initially I was like, well, it's like $50. That's okay. It's digital only, and you probably hate that as much as I do. We're physical copy guys, and it just irritates the hell out of me. But I will say this. They've really done their homework on this new kind of re-envisioned Payday. Not just the graphics. I mean, it's not like a huge leap, but it's definitely a leap. Like, it's running basically the same as, I guess, someone with a really hooked up, Alienware PC would have been running the original Payday. With everything, anti-aliasing and all this shit turned on. It definitely looks beautiful. They've added guns, there's more classes to it, there's more maps, there's more characters. Instead of just the 4 guys, there's like 8 now, I think. So even though it's a second purchase, effectively for me, thank God I didn't have to pay for it, I'm gonna say that it would have been worth the upgrade. Like, even if I had just paid the $50 because of all the extra shit you get with it, I would say yes. If you like the series, do it.
Well, I've got a question about that, because
sure.
When me and you played it,
yeah,
like, we had a really good time playing the game, but the
Absolutely.
one thing that kind of turned me off on Payday was that it was basically like 4 or 5 maps.
Yes.
And once you figure out, like, we always liked doing the jewelry store. That was
Yep.
one of the ones we always, and I guess there was a bank that we did too. It's been so long since I played it, but
Yep.
it was always the exact same setup. There was no like random map or whatever. So basically, once you figured out the layout of the map, the first time, you've got it figured out. Did they switch it up, like, where there's at least like more like versions of like jewelry stores, banks, and all that, or is it kind of the same? Okay.
Oh, so they kind of addressed that before this newest version of the Xbox One version of the game came out, with a couple of add-ons to the game that added some more maps. They added, instead of just a jewelry store, there was like a diamond store. There was a different type of bank. There was like an art heist where you had to break into an art museum, and they've stepped that up even that much further on the Xbox One version, where we're going into missions and I'm playing with my buddy, and he had been playing it for a few days before me, and he's taking me into shit. I'm like, where the hell are we? Like, it looks so different. I was like, what the? And he's like having to explain the objectives and everything. Like, there's one that's obviously inspired by Breaking Bad, where you basically have to learn to cook meth.
Oh, that's awesome.
With your guy on the phone, where he's literally Googling the ingredients about how to cook meth. And if you get the ingredients wrong, the place basically blows up.
Wow.
So there are some moments in that game where I swear short of a really good survival horror game, Tyler, it's been some of the most intense, like, nail biting, white knuckle, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like that kind of stuff that I think I've ever had in my entire life. I have just countless hours of fun playing that. My one gripe with this would be, and I kind of understand it, but it kind of also sucks. All of my progress that I got on the Xbox 360 did not carry over.
Oh,
So I
really?
literally had to start from zero, and I was like a
Uh,
level 70 something. So, I understand that not everyone can be like Blizzard and, do like the cross platform thing where they handled the Diablo 3 transition, which they handled perfectly. I mean, that was like the textbook example of how to handle a transition, to give people a reason to buy the upgraded version. I wasn't really expecting that from these guys, so it's okay. But there is one thing that they've added to this that I think gives people an incentive. If you keep playing the same map over and over and over again, like basically just milking the experience, your experience actually starts to degrade, meaning you don't get as much from that particular mission as you would. When you do variety, you get a lot more bonuses and you actually level extremely fast. On our first mission, I jumped 3 levels
okay.
in one mission. So if you really know how to play the game, like he and I did, excuse me, and you really know the tricks and stuff like that, even though you're kind of limited by your weapons and your equipment and stuff like that, you're gonna blast right through this. Like by the end of the first night, I was like level 10, and that was with 2.5 hours of playing. Maybe, I mean, we were just blasting through missions. So don't be discouraged just because you played it on a previous platform. If you like the Xbox 360 version, you have an Xbone, make the jump. That's what I say.
Okay. Well, I had a buddy that was asking about getting it on Xbox One, and I'd kind of discouraged him initially just because of that initial experience on the 360. But
Mhm.
hearing all that, it sounds like I need to get it too. So
I would love to play with you, man. We'd love to have a third guy. If you like the first one at all, you will love the new one. I can
yeah, I
promise
mean,
that.
I loved it, but it just got where we had like once you beat the mission, it was like what's there to do. I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
playing the exact same mission over and over again. But and we had some of the same nail biting experiences. Trying to get out without the cops getting us and hop in the van. On
Which is
time and all
really
that.
hard. Even at a higher level, like getting through a mission without attracting any police attention, that takes real skill. Like just beating the mission doesn't become enough. Like you want to be like, I don't want to have any, dead bodies. I want to do this totally clean and everything like that. Like I want to do 0 cops because you get bonuses for that. And it's to this day, it's still really hard, even on the lower level missions, to really control the room to the point where the cops aren't even called.
Well, what else have you been playing lately?
Well, I haven't played it yet, but I just got it in the mail the other day. For anyone out there not in the know on this, the Microsoft Store has like amazing deals on things, like the online store and I'm not talking just download codes, like physical copies of games. I probably bought 5 or 6 different games from them, just on random sales. This most recent time was the new Wolfenstein. Not the new one that's the prequel, the one before, the New Order, I think it's called. I haven't played it yet. Heard a lot of great things about it. I just got it in the mail yesterday, so it's sitting downstairs next to the Expo and ready to go. But everyone I know that's played it is like, dude, if you love Wolfenstein, this is the Wolfenstein that you remember. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. But anyways, I've been blabbing on here, man. Tell us, what have you been playing?
I went on vacation. That's what caused us to delay the podcast for about a
Yeah.
week or so. But I took my handhelds with me. That's primarily what I've been playing a lot lately is my Vita and my new 3DS. But
Mhm.
I played a really cool game by Ubisoft called Child of Light, and it is a very unique RPG. And RPGs generally aren't my favorite um, form of game, like just because I don't have the time to play them, these days like I used to.
Mhm.
But it's just very beautiful. It looks like a children's fairy tale, basically. It's all like hand drawn animation,
Mhm.
and it's got a really unique battle system. You use light to slow down the enemy's cast bars,
Mhm.
and it's basically a lot of like interruption in the cast times and all that. But a great RPG. Finished that, and I loved it. And it's really got me interested in playing more RPGs here lately, even though with work and all that, time constraints kind of hold me back. But also, I played A Wolf Among Us. Have you played that? By Telltale.
I haven't. I'm definitely familiar with it, but no, I haven't played it yet.
Really awesome game. I picked it up on the Vita.
Hmm.
If you liked The Walking Dead, even though it's kind of completely different genre, it's kind of a detective story. Basically, the big bad wolf is the sheriff of Fabletown, and
Hmm.
he's investigating some murders. And it's got so many different characters like Sleeping Beauty, and basically they're in modern day city, and
Hmm.
you're trying to find out who murdered uh, a prostitute. But really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. It kind of leaves it open ended, so I'm sure they're going to make a sequel to it.
Sure.
But that was really good. And I played A Link Between Worlds again on 3DS, and that's a
Hmm.
great game. If any of you haven't checked that out, definitely play it. It's one of the great Zelda games that's come out in the past few years. And as far as consoles, I went and got Diablo 3, which is one of the last games me and you played together.
Hmm.
I got the Reaper of Souls edition and basically played it all the way through, and played that last expansion. And it was okay. I've played through Diablo 3 about 4 or 5 times now, and it
Wow.
kind of got long in the tooth there toward the end of it, just
Yeah.
because I've played through it so much. But one thing that I did finally do on this last one is if you kill one of the, like, they have different type of trolls on this game now. Like the treasure trolls pop out and you have to kill them before they go through the portal. Well,
Yeah.
there's actually special ones that will send you to, I forget what the name of the, Goldshire is the name of this hidden town, and it was actually in the original Diablo 3, but you had to like find all these like secret items and stuff. So it's kind of like a easy way to get to it. But you go through, and it's just this like Technicolor world, and you're having to like kill unicorns and Care Bears and all this stuff. I mean, it's way out there, but I found that like pretty cool to actually
Awesome.
be able to play that. But that's about all I've been playing here recently.
That's cool. I haven't gotten to Reaper of Souls yet. I'm glad that I waited and didn't pull the trigger on the 360 because I'd rather make the jump to the Xbone because, like I said earlier, you don't have to lose any of your progress or anything like that.
And it
Um,
basically looks like the PC version. Like you could tell that the 360 version was kind of dumbed down for the
yeah.
system, but this is very polished looking. It was right up there with the PC version. I mean, of course, PC is going to have the best graphics, but I mean, it on a 55-inch TV, it looked
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. Well, that's cool. Thanks for the tip. I'm definitely gonna, I was gonna pull the trigger on that anyways, but now I have even more an incentive because I get to punish unicorns and Care Bears, which
Right.
sounds, when I'm having a bad day, that just sounds fucking awesome.
Exactly.
Let's see. As far as retro games, I actually have one next to me that I want to plug real quick, just for all you collectors and gamers out there. That would be Spike Out Battle Street for the original Xbox. Has skyrocketed in value as of late for many reasons. One, it's one of the last true like co-op brawlers actually published on disc, like not Xbox Live Arcade, like an actual physical game for a console, at least that I remember. And on top of that, you've got co-op, 1 through 4 on the same screen, and you can do 1 through 4 system link. Meaning, if you want to run a local LAN game, do an old school LAN party like the rest of us old farts that actually remember that shit, you can do that where each person actually gets their own console and their own television. And if you like Final Fight, kind of Double Dragon type stuff where you're just running around basically as like your own kind of gang, just beating the crap out of the other gang. This was actually used to be on Xbox Live actually as well, so your gang could take on another gang. This is awesome, and I think that's why the value on this has gone up so much is because it's one of the last few games on a console that you could actually do an effective LAN party with, and I look forward to inviting some friends over and doing that myself. So, Spike Out Battle Street, original Xbox. If you can find it cheap, I got it for $16. I think I got lucky. Pick it up.
I'm about to
Can't
check that
guarantee it.
out.
It's a lot of fun.
I've never even heard of it before, so that's a good little hidden gem there.
It is. It will be on part 3 of my Xbox Hidden Gems series for all of you fans of those series. I just keep coming up with things to add to that, and people seem to enjoy it. But let's see. As far as game news, E3.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We originally had wanted to get the podcast up and going like right around E3, so we could kind of discuss, all the games that were announced and all that. But life happens, and we're kind of late to the game. But I guess better late than never. So
Yeah.
you want to talk about what you are excited about from E3?
I could not be more excited about the new Doom and the new Fallout. Like a lot of people out there, Bethesda was definitely my favorite panel of all the ones I watched, just because there was no smoke and mirrors. There was no coming in 2019 or anything like that. This was like, guys, this is what we're bringing out, and it will be out like this year. And no, pre-rendered trailers or anything. Like, no, we're going to actually play the game and show you what it's all about. So Bethesda, as far as I'm concerned, brought as far as software developers, brought to E3 exactly what every software developer should do. Just like bring the big guns and say, this is what we've got to offer. Doom killed it. It's the old school Doom that I remember playing back when I was in high school. To hell with reloading. You can carry as many guns as you want. It's just like in your face action, violent as shit. Just demons and stuff ripping people apart. I mean, to me, that's Doom. That kind of visceral experience, which that franchise, in my opinion, at least, kind of grandfathered.
I missed that aspect of video games. Like with Doom, you carry every fucking gun that you can get your hands on. Like, I don't want to, like that's one of my biggest gripes in Halo. It's like,
yeah.
I don't want to get rid of my sniper rifle. I want the sniper rifle. I want the rocket launcher, and I want the assault rifle. So, I totally agree with that.
According to Mythbusters, it's actually possible to do that on that
I
episode
saw that.
where they tested that.
I saw that. That's
They
awesome.
brought in like a pro MMA fighter, like a professional athlete, and he went through it with all the shit on him faster than they did without it.
Right.
So, it's a bit of a stretch, mind you, but it's not impossible.
Right.
It's not physically impossible. So, at the end of the day, guys, it's a video game. Like you're accepting suspension of disbelief the second you pick up the controller or turn on the game. Basically that that you're going to enter into a completely different world where the normal rules of our own world don't necessarily apply, and that's fine. I have no problem accepting that a guy's carrying like 10 different freaking guns that are like the size of like rocket launchers and stuff like that, like big heavy 20-30 pound guns. That's fine. If it enhances the gameplay experience, rock on. But Fallout in particular, and I have a little story for you guys actually, with what they showed with the character creation system and just the sheer scope of detail that they went into as far as how you could make your character different, like, and not just pre-rendered stuff. Like you literally, take your controller or click your mouse or whatever, and you drag it, and the face is your blank canvas, to create anything you want. To the point where they were boasting that, like, no two people are going to create the same thing. Basically, like the odds of that happening are actually really slim. And that to me is really what Bethesda has always been about. Is always just like taking that RPG experience of customization and just pushing it to the next level, and just saying, this is what we're updating this time. We're going to make the world bigger. We're going to let you do more things. And it's the same Fallout that I remember playing the last 2 games, just everything scaled up, which I don't think is a bad thing. That's exactly what I want. I want it to be Fallout. I just want more bells, whistles, toys, and a bigger sandbox. And I think that's probably what most Fallout people want. The Pip-Boy edition that they had announced at the show, and Tyler, you're gonna have to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I got my facts straight on this one. This, as far as I know, is the only time that a special edition of a game has sold out before E3 was over.
Like
the pre-orders on that were
honestly can't
gone.
remember another game selling that fast. And the crazy thing about it is it sold out pretty much. They had the Bethesda conference on Sunday night, right?
Yep.
It sold out by Monday morning because I didn't stay up to watch the Bethesda conference. I forget what I was doing that night, but so I went to bed and I woke up and some of my friends were texting me. They're like, "Oh, did you see the Pit Boy edition?" And I'm like, "Nah." And he's like, "Yeah, I pre-ordered it." So of course I went to Amazon, all sold out, and went to Best Buy. And my buddy texted me. He's like, "Go to Best Buy, hurry. They've still got some." So I went to click on it, and it said available. Of course, once I clicked on it, they're like, "Oh, we're out of stock." So I was like, "Shit." So this is one of the few times that I've actually went to Amazon and was like, "Please notify me when more are available." And they actually emailed me, and I was able to get on and get some. Any other time I've ever tried that, I've never been lucky enough to actually get one. So, and another thing that's cool that I don't know if it was actually Bethesda that told Amazon to do this, but they limited you to one pre-order, because I tried to go back when they opened it back up again for a third time and pre-order one for my buddy that didn't get one, and it wouldn't let me order one because I already had one pre-ordered. So
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it is. It is. The resellers.
Yeah, I mean, Best Buy and the rest of the brick and mortar stores did not have that same limitation. Tyler, I shit you not. As soon as I, like you, I didn't stay up for the Bethesda panel, I watched it the next day. And I went, online, I hit Amazon, I hit all the usual sites to see if anyone had a pre-order. And it was all gone. And I check eBay, and there's already people scalping this thing for 150% of retail. And I'm like, these people make me sick. As a collector, I'm like, you guys are assholes. It's not even out yet. Not to mention, the pre-order wasn't closed. I'm like, so if somebody buys this, then they add more units to the pre-order, then what happens? Is eBay going to step in and be like, this is because they have a strict policy against price gouging, where eBay will actually step in as a moderator and say, you can't do this. Right. Not if it's an item that you can buy right now from Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, etc. So I actually discovered a site throughout the course of this, because I think the old psychology of this applies. If someone tells you can't have the cookie, you just want it more. Because I wanted it really bad before this, but when I figured it sold out, I was like, God damn it, now I gotta get this thing. I totally bit the bug of consumerism. But there's a site called nowinstock.net that's totally free, that you can basically set up alert bugs on all the major stores, and you can search by product. So I lined up Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Amazon, and you can actually have it send you a text within, I think, 2 seconds of them going live. And I got the text while I was sitting downstairs on the couch saying that it was available, and I was on Skype actually talking to a friend. I was like, hang on a second. I freaking ran upstairs to the computer, typed it in, boom, freaking got it. Nice. I was like, ooh. And dude, I shit you not. Less than 30 minutes later, I just went back to look at it. They were already gone. On every single site, just like that. I was like, this is double the cost of the actual game. It's $120, twice the retail cost of just the regular game. And it's probably outselling the regular game. Right. I've never seen that happen before. The special edition is normally just for guys like you and me, but this almost became status quo. I would say, for everyone who wanted to play the game.
Well, I had kind of sworn off buying collector's editions. I had gotten so many that I just had nowhere to put them. Yeah. And you buy a collector's edition, and I mean, if it's really cool and it's like a beautiful statue or something, then that's pretty cool to display on your shelf or whatever. But I mean, some of them, I think I got the Witcher 2 collector's edition, and it had a fucking necklace, and why I needed that. Yeah. I mean, and I had this. I started getting this collection of shit that I would never use, that I couldn't display, and it was taking up a shit ton of room in my closet. So I'd kind of sworn it off, but then I saw this Pit Boy edition. I was like, God, I've got to have that.
I know. I saw something. I was like, it's. I mean,
so it just went out the window.
What's Todd Howard of Bethesda was the first to say, it's like, okay, most collector's edition are basically like a plastic piece of shit toy, and this is no exception. But this is a really cool plastic piece of shit toy. I was
Right.
like, how can you argue with that? He's even admitting, like, okay, yes, this is for the dorks out there like us, and we're one of them. We're some
But
of them,
he's
but you
like,
know what?
if
It's
we're going
fun.
to make it, it's going to be the coolest fucking
Yes,
useless
the
piece of
coolest
plastic
piece of
ever.
shit.
I think that was
And
his exact quote. I
yeah,
thought that
I
was
was
great.
like, I was like, I love Todd Howard. I really do. That dude is not just a developer. That dude is like, he's the one of us who made it.
Yeah.
To like the big leagues. He graduated to basically being a professional nerd. And he still gets to do what he loves to do. He just gets paid a crap load of money for it. He's probably, multimillionaire. So I again, I want to stress Bethesda A plus for E3, man. You guys, as far as I'm concerned, have set the bar for what software devs should be doing for E3.
Did you see the Xbox Live arcade game Cuphead? That's like in the 1930s cartoon style.
No, I did not
Oh, dude,
actually.
it looks so amazing. I don't know when it's coming out. It might be on the um, summer arcade games that they release every year, but definitely look that up and just look at the footage. But it literally looks like you're in one of those like um, 1930 cartoons, like the old school. And I think it's like a boss rush game, but it just looks really awesome. That was a
Cool.
Microsoft exclusive, and also I saw on the Microsoft press conference the Rare replay, and I went
I
ahead
was just about to bring that up.
yeah, that shit's going to be clutch. Comes out 4th of next month, and 30 games.
Smart move.
Yeah, and
30 games for $30, and not just like 30 throwaway games, like 30 fucking awesome games.
right, I think Conkers is on that, and
Yep.
I can't wait to see if that's going to have online. Because if you've ever played Conker's Bad Fur Day, the multiplayer on that was amazing. Some of the best multiplayer you'll ever play. It's simple, but it's great. I mean, there's no telling how many afternoons back
Yeah.
in high school we spent, playing over at my buddy Marshall's house, and
Mhm.
just would play for hours on the beach. And for those of you who played Conkers, you definitely know what I'm talking about on that level. But Rare came out, with guns blazing.
Yeah.
What about the pirate game? Did you see that? I forget the name of it, but it's like it's a new pirate game from Rare, and I don't know if it's online only, but it looks really sweet. And it's going to be, of course, Microsoft exclusive since Microsoft owns Rare.
Yeah.
And the other big news with Microsoft, of course, they announced another Halo, and that looked great. New Gears of War and the Gears of War collection, which comes out next month too.
I want to get that. I wasn't entirely sold on that, but when I saw the little stuff, that they put on the tiles for you on the Expo, where you check out the developer stuff, where they show what they've done.
Right.
Gears of War has never looked that good. I mean, it looks beautiful.
Do you remember when that came out for Xbox 360?
Yes.
And just how much of a game changer it was?
That was like, that
graphically?
set the standard for like graphics on a console. People were like,
Right.
holy shit. Not to mention just the fact that's like, okay, so I have a gun and a chainsaw, and it's like the same thing. Like, I don't have to change guns. It's like, wow, they took what Doom did and just like made it better. That's wow.
But the other really cool news, and of course, I'm a big Metroid fan, and Retro Studios is apparently, I'm pretty sure it's Retro that's working with Mr. Inafune, who created Mega Man, and they're making a game called Recore, and it was just your typical CGI movie or whatever, just kind of a glimpse of the game, but it looks really cool. It looks like the concept is you have like a core that you can put in different things, and the core becomes like your companion, and you can use it in different ways. But it looks really interesting. I'm excited to see what that game is. When they tell us more about it. You want to cover the PS3. What came out? That's
You're probably gonna have to refresh my memory, but go ahead.
all right. So we had some. Sony came out swinging for the fences here. They definitely were placating to the hardcore gamers.
Hmm.
They're re-releasing, well, not re-releasing, but they're doing Final Fantasy VII completely.
Hmm.
And of course, Final Fantasy fans, that's a lot of people's favorite Final Fantasy game. That was big news. Um, of course, that's when they announced Shenmue 3.
Hmm.
And, a
What?
lot of people kind of gave up on that ever, uh, being made.
Right.
I remember 2 or 3 years ago, the creator had kind of thrown around the idea of maybe doing crowdfunding.
Right.
And from what I hear, the some of the Sony bigwigs kind of saw him at a conference, and they got to talking, and that's how this kind of came about with the Kickstarter. But I assume it just ended last night, and Shenmue 3 is actually the uh, most crowdfunded game on Kickstarter of all time now.
Yeah.
Um,
What did it get up to?
it got like 6.3 million or something. It actually um, went over the oh shit, I can't remember the name of it. It's the Symphony of the Night
Yeah.
clone, the Blood something.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the guy who made Symphony of the Night.
Yeah,
Shit, it's Blood something. I'm
yeah, I
totally
can't
drawing a
think
blank
of
right
it
now.
either. But it passed it up. It passed up Mighty Number Nine by quite a bit. So that was big news, and of course, probably the biggest news was the Last Guardian, which has kind of been, um, talked about being released for 4 or 5 years now,
Yeah.
and they actually had gameplay of that. But I think probably the more interesting of all of them was the footage of Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. Like
Yeah.
that's
It looks
that's
good.
going to be the game of winter. I think this year is, and I think everybody's going to be playing that because
Probably.
the Hoth footage looks
Yeah.
incredible.
As far as let's go back to the Shenmue thing. As far as that goes, just between everything that has transpired, since that was announced, I think it's awesome that Shenmue 3 is actually getting made. I remember playing that for the Dreamcast when it came out and it being such a game changer. But I mean, even the developers of the game, the guy that's pushing behind this is saying like, we're not going to be able to do true open world with like sub $10 million. Like we're going to need double that, to basically make this thing an effective modern game because I mean, the original game cost more than that. Way back when. The first game was 13 or 14 million bucks to make, and
I want to say it
things are
was
more
over.
expensive now.
Yeah, I want to
What's
say it
that?
was significantly more than that.
It was a lot to say the very least, and that was in like the late 1990s, early
Right.
2000s. Things have changed a little bit now, and I guess my big question is, it's cool that they kickstarted this, just to kind of test the waters and stuff and see who was actually interested. I don't think either you or I were at all surprised for the turnout for this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a big shock that this thing got funded really quickly, but at the end of the day, Sony is basically going to have to fund the rest if they really want to make this thing truly successful. Be what the creator of this wants to be. They're going to have to throw $20 or $30 million at it in development costs and stuff. And to Sony, that's no big deal. It's not like they don't have the money, so that's no worries. So I'm kind of two minds about this. Like one, yeah, it's cool that games are getting more democratic, as far as what gets made versus what doesn't. People are voting from a capitalist perspective and voting from their wallet. So that's awesome that it's heading this way. But at the same time, it's just like, Sony, you guys have got the money, man. Like, just you're removing the idea of risk from the company. It's like we're kind of taking that away from the companies where they don't have to take any type of risk to gain money.
Right.
They just put the idea out there.
Because that's
And
exactly what it was. I think they initially were like, we'll start the Kickstarter. We'll definitely help fund the game if the Kickstarter is successful.
Yeah,
But we don't want to go that far out on a limb, to see if people actually, want this game and spend all this money developing it and, you know, it fall apart. But you're seeing that more and more with game companies now, where,
hmm,
um, especially these big studios that one bad game can bring a whole studio to its knees.
sure.
Um, we're seeing
Because
that with Capcom here lately and Konami, and they're putting hundreds of millions of dollars into the development of the games, and they're probably at this point some of the development companies too big,
yeah,
and they have so many people on payroll that if they do have one bad game, then they have to lay a bunch of people off and all that. But THQ went under.
yeah,
After what was the bad game that, because they had released Darksiders 2,
yep,
and maybe it didn't sell what it was supposed to or something, and they went under, and you're just seeing that more and more with game companies now. They hard to um, hard to sustain that success over a long period of time. But I think that's what was going on with Shenmue 3 is the first two games were so expensive to make, and then this third one, and they, back then I don't believe they sold, that great. They had a very dedicated audience.
hmm,
I got it, um, when it first came out. I remember reading the official Dreamcast magazine
yeah,
and looking at all the screenshots and how revolutionary that game was supposed to be when it came out. And it was, for the time.
it was.
Um, and
Have you
then
seen how much it drove the price of the original two games up?
it went. I hadn't seen
Fucking
the
nuts, man.
Xbox version. I've got both of them, but what did it make Xbox One Shenmue 2 go up to?
I saw it in a retail store, I think the weekend before E3. And you want to talk about like kicking myself afterwards because I never got around to the Xbox version. It was like $16,
Mm-hmm.
which at the time was like the going rate. I was like, I mean, that's like retail. It's not really that great of a price, and I didn't buy it. The last time I looked, it was between $50 and $60,
Yeah, and that's what the Dreamcast version's going for, and higher, up
which
to.
is, I find that so infuriating because it's
Mhm.
like you're inflating the price not because of reduction of quantity. It's pure demand
It is, and
now.
every time like a big podcast or big YouTube channel, basically brings to
Hey,
light.
Jan.
Yeah, like
Mike and James, god damn it. Like,
a couple of years ago, Musha was basically a $80 game on the Sega Genesis, and a couple people started mentioning it, and I mean, it went up. So you kind of got to like beat them to the punch. And now, you
hmm,
know, a lot of the games that were fairly common and easy to get that were hidden gems. All the hidden gems on different YouTuber shows. It's hard to scoop something up before the price goes up.
and to be perfectly honest, I think on a very, very small scale of probably a millionth of a percent, I'm guilty of that as well. Just the number of comments that I've received when I did my first Xbox Hidden Gems video, original Xbox, of all these people who actually genuinely hadn't heard of these games, like Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth, which I've had since it came out, by the way. I got that the day it came out. Not a repurchase, never had to buy it again. And I just kind of knew that that was going to be like a collector's item one day because it was so hard to get. I was calling GameStops and stuff, and they didn't even know what it was. Oh, like, yeah, it just came out today because it didn't have like a big, commercial press release or anything like that. Even though it was published by Bethesda, it's published by a major outfit, and So many people had never heard of Hunt of the Reckoning or Grab by the Ghoulies and stuff like that. And, Grab by the Ghoulies is a rare game. Like, some people consider it the last true rare game, as in made by the original team who did Conquer and Perfect Dark and all these other games that Rare is known for. That was like the last hoorah of the graduating class. And in my opinion, it's probably my favorite original Xbox game, which is on the Rare collection, by the way. And dude, that game for a fucking $1, oh my God.
Right.
That's deal of the century right there.
Everybody needs to get that
in
shit.
1080p, man. I was like,
Right.
oh. And it amazes me how many people haven't heard of that game. I'm like, okay, heard of Conquerors? They're like, yeah. I'm like, heard of Perfect Dark? Like, yeah. And then I just go down the list, and they're like, if you love those games, you will love this game.
Right.
Like, this is like a love letter to this. And so many unintentionally adult jokes, or maybe they were intentional. Like, I mean, just the name Grab by the Ghoulies and just all these little tidbits they throw in for the adults. I was like, this is actually a really profane game. It's just that it's going to be going over kids' heads. But I mean, as retro gamers, are we exacerbating the problem by sitting online and talk about it? To a much, much smaller degree, yes. I mean, we're definitely as guilty as anyone else does, or anyone else is rather, but at the same time, what the hell else are we going to talk about? I mean, this is our mutual hobby, and we're going to say like, oh yeah, there's this game for this system that starts with T, and we're not going to talk about it, but it's a really awesome game, so go get it. Thank you. I mean, we can't exactly take that approach. But that's about all I got for games. Do you have anything else?
We didn't cover Nintendo, and basically
oh boy.
Here we go.
There's not that much to cover.
I know, right?
All right. Let's start off with something positive. There was one thing from their panel that I did like. The new Star Fox looks fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I want to play that game. Like, when they showed the demo of the dude holding, the gamepad up, showing the target and stuff, I was like, this is why the gamepad was created. I was like, finally, like, someone's doing it right. On an original Nintendo title. Like, this is why it's cool. And just the fact that this is probably actually, I can pretty much guarantee this is the only Star Fox game that we're going to get on the Wii U. Because they're already talking about the NX, so this is probably it until next gen, ladies and gentlemen. So for the next probably 5 years or so, this is going to be it to get your Star Fox fix.
What about the Mario Maker? Did you see it?
Yes, Mario Maker I think is very, very cool. I think it's awesome that you can create Mario stuff from different time periods. Like, you don't just have to do the new stuff. If you want to go back a couple generations and create something older, that's awesome. I haven't had the chance to sit down and play it. I unfortunately didn't get into Best Buy when they were doing demos, but a couple of my buddies did, and they're like, dude, it is so much fun. Like, this is going to be the cause of friends, like, hating each other. like somebody making a map that just is designed to be hell and putting it up against their friends like, bitch, you can't complete this. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to be doing the same thing. Like, remember Excite Bike when they had the level creator? And you'd always have that one asshole friend that would always make all the jumps like in a row. So you're like, really, man? This I think is going to be like a resurgence of that. And that, in my opinion, is the one singular part of Nintendo's E3 panel that's really specifically catered to guys like you and me, like the retro collectors. So they're like, all that shit you love about Mario, how'd you like to do it yourself?
Right.
Fuck you, take my money. Sold, But as far as Nintendo, the Metroid thing, I know you're a Metroid fan. I was really disappointed with that.
Dude, I just knew this year. I knew it. I was like,
really?
I was like, we're going to get a Metroid, whether it's on the 3DS or we're going to get it on the Wii U. And to have, the Strike Force game, I'm like, really? Like,
think about all the potential that they could have used with the gamepad and the Wii U platform to make a kick-ass Metroid game, and it's not going to happen now.
Right.
Like, it's not. Like, you're not going to see a real, like, Metroid Prime, style game until Project NX. It's not going to fucking happen.
The internet exploded that day, and I'm glad it did because, Metroid passed their anniversary a few years ago. And, they did big anniversary, things for Kirby. I believe they did one for, I know they did one for Mario. They did one for Zelda. And, Metroid was completely left out. And so people were really, they're wanting another Metroid game. And,
sure.
I'm glad that they let Nintendo know. Um,
Yeah.
I think now they'll probably start working on something if they weren't already, and maybe they were and they just didn't want to announce it. But yeah, needless to say, I was pretty disappointed in Strike Force or whatever the hell the game
It's like
is.
what the why don't what it's you know what it looks like? That reminded me of the whole infamous Super Mario Brothers 2 incident where they just took a completely different game and slapped Mario on it and was like, "Here's Super Mario Bros. 2, America."
Right.
It's just like, was this even developed as a Metroid game? Because it doesn't look like it was.
Well,
It looks like you
and
just dumped it in there.
they definitely slapped the name on there probably to sell games, and
Hmm.
it has pretty much nothing to do with the universe
No.
So I don't know what they were thinking on that one, but hopefully Nintendo will get it right. Maybe in one of the later Nintendo Directs this year. So I guess we will wait and see on that one.
You gotcha, man.
Well, Comic Con just happened. Do you want to
Yes,
let's
I would love to
cover
take the
that?
lead on this, if I may.
All
I've
right.
got a lot to say about this. Okay, so Comic Con these days is less about actual comic books. Although, to be fair, since like comic book movies are pretty much the big earners at the box office these days. Like, as I always like to say, like nerds, we won. We won the battle against the freaking haters. Our shit is the most popular shit in the world now. So fuck you guys for ever making fun of us, man. Ha ha, we told you. We're laughing all the way to the bank now. So um, it's definitely cool that there is still that presence at Comic Con, but it's become more of everything media, I guess you could say. Now they do like stuff for video games, like they do stuff for movies that have nothing to do with comic books. And don't get me wrong, I think that's great. I think that Comic Con has become bigger than what it actually was, and so many good things this year. The Star Wars thing, of course, was awesome. It was really cool to get to see the behind the scenes reel with everybody just hanging out and talking. And you didn't get to see too much from the original cast, but that didn't really surprise me. I know that they're saving that for the movie, and they were just bringing in the young kids and shit. And guys like you and me, it's like, dude, we want to see like Han Solo and Luke and Princess Leia and shit, like just talk. Like I want to see a shot of them like just sitting there having a tuna sandwich and Gatorade, on the side. It's like, dude, this is awesome. Like something that you and I probably never would have guessed would have ever happened again in our lifetime is coming back into the fold. Not just a new Star Wars movie, but a new Star Wars movie with the people that we would define as the stars of Star Wars. Well, that's a lot of stars. I just think that that's amazing. But the one subject that I want to touch on the most, and I'm sure you're equally excited about this, the Ash versus the Evil Dead panel that
Yeah.
they did, where stars, for any of you guys not in the know, this was announced months ago, and I almost jumped out of my fucking chair with excitement because I've been waiting for something like this since I was 14 years old. Stars has basically greenlit a series with the assistance, production, and oversight of Robert Taper, Bruce Campbell, and Sam Raimi, the three guys, the three godfathers of the Evil Dead series. The first Evil Dead movie that I ever saw was Army of Darkness, like a lot of people. I missed the first two. And I remember seeing commercials for it and stuff like that. And I originally watched it with some friends of mine who were kind of cine geeks. And they were just like, this is like the third movie in a series, right? I was like, well, what's the other two called? They're like Evil Dead. I was like, well, what's Evil Dead? And we actually went to a brick and mortar store, Blockbuster probably, and rented the movies and actually watched them. And like my mind was blown that a horror and a comedy could exist in the same cinematic space. And I just fell so in love with the franchise, like I'm sure a lot of people did, with the character of Ash and everything. And it's gone on to influence so many things. I mean, Doom, Duke Nukem, like all these things in pop culture. Like this is what started all of that. And when I got to see the actual trailer of, Bruce Campbell, like strapping on the chainsaw, putting on the glove and stuff like that and grabbing the double barrel, it's like I was 14 years old all over again. Like it had not lost any of its appeal to me at all. I was so beyond excited. And I like that they're not trying to take away the fact that he's 30 years older, than he was in the first Evil Dead movie, effectively. and that he's an older Ash. Like he's still got it, but I mean he's a guy in his 50s, and with him doing the thing where you think he's strapping on the hand, he's actually strapping on a girdle. Basically like yeah, still got it. Like it's still Ash, like it's still him, which is really just an extension of Bruce Campbell. Like it's him with the volume turned all the way up. And they show the blood and everything like that, which is just so ridiculously over the top, which is exactly what you want in something Evil Dead. You want it to be so bloody and ridiculous that it's actually funny. And my only complaint with this, to be really honest, is that the episodes are only 30 minutes. It's like, oh, it's like right when I'm getting into it, damn it, like now I gotta wait till the next week. That I find infuriating. But dude, we're getting a new Evil Dead. It's not somebody else's version of the Evil Dead. Like Sam Raimi's written and directed the pilot and everything. He's signing off on this. He's overseeing the series. Bruce Campbell, Rob Tapert involved in like everything that you want to be involved in Evil Dead. I would honestly say that this is better than getting an Evil Dead 4 movie because this can keep going. With the advent of, we'll say, The Walking Dead, which really, at least in the most recent generation, pushed cable channel shows forward as far as what people can actually do. And on Stars, they can literally do whatever they want. Since it's pay cable, it can be as bloody, violent, and as much fucks and shits, as they see necessary.
Right.
So I could not, as a fan of this series, man, I could not be happier that it's like everything from our childhood that was cool is still cool.
Yeah,
and it's all being resurfaced.
I love how they kind of stuck to the original formula with Army of Darkness. I mean, it looks like it's that same humor, dark humor, campiness, and it definitely looks good. I watched the trailer earlier this week, and I was laughing all the way through it. I mean, it looks hilarious, but I'm excited for that too.
It's the reason I'm going to get Stars. I will get it just to watch that goddamn show. Like, seriously. I mean, it's this. All right, I'm gonna go on record here. This is my prediction, folks. Okay, so HBO has their online thing that doesn't need cable anymore. Showtime just kicked theirs off, and they actually had a really good idea where they tied it into Hulu, since it's all the same parent company. So you can add it for like $8 to Hulu, which that was brilliant. Stars has said, like, we don't have anything planned and blah, 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 blah. I think that's a bunch of crap. I think that they've got something in the works because the other two have been so successful with their launch of this. And let's face it, this is the future of how people are going to consume media. Cable and satellite, I'm not going to say they're going to go extinct because you still need the internet. But I think the internet itself is effectively going to replace broadcast television.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while. We're probably a good decade away from that. But that's the reason that it's heading, the direction rather that it's heading, because, with the advent of broadband, I mean, you can get 100 megabits per second, through my provider, Comcast, in your house now, where 10 years ago, like, even if you were a business and had the money for that, that was unheard of, so being able to stream things now isn't that big of a deal. We've got a lot more bandwidth to play with to the point where broadcasting over the air, I mean, even in our circles with Google Hangouts and things like that, that's like our generation's version of live television. And the whole YouTube thing and everything, I mean, you love it or hate it, ladies and gentlemen, YouTube is changing media. I mean, it's the largest media platform in the world. So that in and of itself, and it kind of what it has become, I think, is forcing the satellite and cable providers to adapt.
Yeah, and just the sheer number of content, that's available. I mean, you go to HBO, you've got, the entire Sopranos series you can sit there and watch. Whatever movies that they're offering at that time. But
they don't have Tales from the Crypt. What the fuck?
Well, I recently did some research into that because I was a big Tales from the Crypt fan too, and apparently there's some licensing issues with Tales from the Crypt, and it's kind of stuck in limbo for the time being with all the different entities that have interest in Tales from the Crypt. But that's the reason that it's not on with the rest of the HBO stuff. But
infuriating.
But we were wondering the same thing because I would love to go back and watch, some of those old Tales from the Crypt that I used to watch as a kid. Definitely. But, you said that this is going to be the one thing that you're going to have stars for, you need to check out Black Sails when you do get stars.
I haven't gotten around to that. Is it any good?
Oh, it's great. It's a
Is it?
set in the Caribbean, of course,
Yarr.
and it's all the pirate goodness you can ask for. I mean, it's great. It's very HBO-ish, so you're definitely going to have some scantily clad women and
Hell
language and all
yeah.
that. So, but the action is great.
Yeah.
Season 2 was amazing, especially how it ended. So,
I did really like Spartacus on Stars. That was the
right.
first show I ever watched with them. That was awesome. That, I mean, going back to Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert, they had some involvement in that as well, and that was like, wow, like this is what television shows can be these days.
Well, keeping along the same lines, let's go in the other spectrum of stuff that we're not looking forward to. What about this Supergirl? Have you seen the previews for that?
All right. To be fair, full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, I am a huge DC Comics fan. I'm not a Marvel hater. I want to be very clear about that, guys. I love the Avengers. I love Thor. I love Iron Man. I watch all of that shit. I don't discriminate. I'm an equal opportunity comics nerd. Okay. So, am I holding out reservations for seeing this show? Yes. But there is one thing I think this show has going for it, which is at least going to make me check the pilot out and just see what it's all about. The guys that are running Arrow and Flash, who I adore. Those are two of my favorite television shows. In my opinion, that is how you do a comic book TV show correctly. That is the reason why I think, in my opinion, DC is kicking Marvel's ass as far as TV shows are concerned. Marvel is still ahead in the movie thing. DC's kind of slowly getting with the program on that. But dude, as far as TV, DC's smoking Marvel's ass. Mainly because when you see a TV show about comic book stuff, anything comic book stuff, I get the point of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I really do, but I don't give a fuck about the people behind the scenes. I don't care.
I'm not
really
a fan of it.
I want to watch superheroes, dude. I want to see Green Arrow, and they're crossing over the shows where Green Arrow and Flash are like, becoming one and shit. I was like, guys, they are doing this perfectly. I mean, and some people are upset because they don't incorporate it into the movies. Guys, I don't want them to do that. Like, seriously, do I think it's cool that Marvel's doing that? That they've got one big thing where the shows and the movies exist? Sure. But in DC's case, I want them to be separate. I want the movies to be together, and I want the shows to be together. So you can have, parallel universes of things that get together. And then they've got, Legends of Tomorrow, where they're getting, everybody from every show, into one big show, and then anyways, the whole point I was making with Supergirl, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, was the guys who run those two shows are writing this. They are the creative control over this show. Given how great a job they've done with their other two shows, where they literally just hit the ground running from episode 1, I at least owe them a shot with this. Where I'm going to say, all right, let me check out the pilot. If it sucks, I don't have to watch it. But they've got a really good track record so far, dude. I mean,
they do, and I think the big gripe a lot of people were having was that, because it was a woman, being the main character, they kind of always did that cliche, she's a superhero, but she can't get her love life together, and all this the cliches that you have with women lead characters, and I think that was the big thing that they had gripes about. But I don't know. I was a big fan of Smallville back in the day.
Me too.
About season 5, it started kind of losing its way, or maybe season 6. And it kind of got, they probably should have ended at about season 7 or so, but it went on a little too long. But man, those first few seasons of Smallville were just amazing. So, if it's something like that, then I'll watch it. I'm kind of afraid to admit this to you, but I actually haven't watched any Arrow or Flash.
Oh. Dude, nerd failure.
I know, right?
Brother, you are missing two of the best shows on television right now.
Well, I've got an excuse. I actually just started, I just finished Orange is the New Black, season 2, which was
Okay.
or season 3, which was great, and I just caught up with 3 seasons of Banshee. So that's
Okay.
an amazing show. If you like action, definitely check out Banshee. It's a Cinemax show, but it's great, great show. Um,
I want you to get caught up on those 2 shows so that I have someone to talk about it with and we can talk about it on the podcast. They are honestly that fucking good.
well,
Seriously.
see, my parents just went through and like watched the entire series, and so they've been on me too about it. So
It's
I've
really
got
good.
to, and I think they went through and watched all the Flash too. But
Yeah. They're
um,
very different shows. Like you can tell where they commingle, but they definitely did not just recycle the same thing that they did with Arrow and the Flash. It is definitely its own thing. The tone, the feel, everything, completely different character because, well, the characters themselves are completely different. You know, I mean, Barry Allen, the Flash, is like the goody two shoes good guy. You know, he's the guy who always does the right thing. Ollie Queen is more like Batman, where he's dark, he's got a past, he's got, you know, a head full of freaking bad shit that happened to him in his past that made him who he is. And it's, you know, his approach to things, like when they finally crossed the shows over for a little 2-part thing where they met and actually teamed up to kick some, you know, supervillain ass. You can see how different their approaches to crime fighting are because they're almost at odds with each other. To the point where they actually get in a fight, and most people are like, "Dude, Flash should kick freaking Arrow's ass." I'm like, guys, this is the same thing as like, you know, like the Superman Batman thing. Okay, yes, one of them is super powered and one of them isn't, but one of them is a young kid and the other guy is like a battle tested strategy master, you know, who is used to having to think his way around people stronger than him. There's something to be said for that. I mean, there really is. And the way they did it, it wasn't cheesy at all. Like I won't spoil it for you, but when the Flash and the Arrow actually go toe to toe, you're going to see the strengths and weaknesses of each one, and they leave it on a cliffhanger at the end where he's like, you know, Arrow and, you know, like Barry and Ollie meet up, and he's like, you know what? It's like, this has got us both wondering who would win, you or me, if it came down to it. And they've got the thing, you know, where they're running towards each other, fade to black. And you never hear anything else about it, so we're never going to know who won. So they just kind of leave it to the nerd debate, and it's like, the guys who write this show, man, they're basically us. Like, this is what we want to see. Like, you know, like, dude, who would win? You know, if you put these guys in a room together, just they answer all of those questions. It just seems like the guys who write this and the guys who put this out are fans of the material, and it shows when they put out the shows. I never thought I'd see Gorilla Grodd on television, but the fucking Flash is doing it. I'm like, dude, there's like an ape supervillain, and it doesn't look stupid. Like, I don't know how they did this because I couldn't have, but it looks awesome. You know, he's actually scary. So I'm going to give Supergirl a go. I don't know whether it's going to be good or not, but I've got to put my faith in these 2 guys. They know what they're doing. I want to give it a shot.
Well,
And
I think we're going to have a good dynamic because you're the DC fanboy and I'm the Marvel fanboy, so we're going to have a good dynamic. And I will take up for Marvel on the TV side. Yes, yes, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't that good, but
nope.
Daredevil was great.
All right. I didn't even think of that. Okay, but to be fair, Agent Carter I actually liked. That I thought was very well done because it's a period piece, but it's, even though it's not revolving around superheroes, they made it interesting.
Right.
I actually really like that. But no, Daredevil, dude. That
I love how Marvel's taking risk and they're actually letting them be a little darker with it. You know, not everything has to be PG-13. You know,
no, hell no.
So I'm glad they did that.
The Daredevil first season, I think, is one of the best first seasons of any television show in history. Yeah. Not just comic book shows. I'm talking any fucking TV show. The last episode of that, I'm not going to spoil it for any of you guys who haven't seen it. I was like on my feet fucking cheering. You know, when you actually get to see him in the suit for the first time, you're like, and he didn't do the nunchaku thing. That was my only real fanboy complaint. But I mean, he's got the fucking baton and everything. You're just like, yes! Like, this is scratching so many nerd itches of mine right now. And Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, fucking home run. Like, that dude was born to play this part. He's physically intimidating, but he's also this dude where you're genuinely afraid of this guy. Like, this dude is fucking ruthless.
Right.
You know, I mean, you make a great Bond villain, you know, let alone the Kingpin. He's such a great actor. So, no, you're absolutely right. Daredevil, yeah, that Daredevil I saw as Marvel's response to like DC coming out swinging like, well, we're gonna do a show with superheroes. Like, if you want to do a show with regular people, that's fine. We're gonna bring our A game. And Marvel's like, oh yeah, and I think that's great. I want them to be competitive because we win when
Right.
they are. We win as the consumer. So, yes, I'm looking forward to Luke Cage. I'm looking forward to Jessica Jones. I am absolutely looking forward to Iron Fist, man. He's such an underrated character. I fucking love that guy. And most importantly, the Defenders, when they all come together for the same show. That is so cool that they're actually doing that, man. And God bless Netflix for doing this. That they are definitely. I mentioned earlier, YouTube. Netflix is the other company that's kind of the thorn cable and satellite side.
Right.
That's changing the dynamic of how we consume our media, and it's so awesome that you get the whole series. How long did it take you to blast through Daredevil?
I want to say maybe 1 week. It was after work. I would watch like 2 or 3 episodes every
It
night.
took me
So
less than a day.
if I had time off, it would have been it would have been a day. My girlfriend actually used that as like an icebreaker into comic book, shows and movies, and she actually blasted through it probably in 2 days. She's off for the summer. She's a teacher, and
Nice.
so she's been off all summer. So I've been trying to kind of get her in the nerd culture a little bit.
Awesome.
My next project's to get her to start playing some video games with me. So we'll
Dude,
we'll see how that turns out.
you and I have that in common because my girlfriend is actually a really big comic book fan, or rather a Marvel movie fan, rather. She loves the Avengers and all that other stuff. And, excuse me, had never heard of Daredevil. And it has Netflix. I was like, you need to check this out. She's like, I don't know anything about it. I was like, trust me. And she went through it in less than a day. She was like, I could not
Nice.
stop watching it. This was so good. She's like, I can't believe we have to wait for season 2. I was like, I know. like that's almost the catch-22 about getting the whole thing all at once, is that, when you cook through it in a day, then you have to wait a whole year for that
Right.
next day. And like, oh, it's like you almost want to pace yourself because it makes the pain of waiting that much less, in my opinion.
All right, I've got one more TV show that I almost forgot to mention,
What's
but
that?
I'm really excited that they're kind of rebooting it. Is Heroes?
Yes, I was a big fan of the original Hero series. I thought it got a lot of unnecessary flack.
The first season of Heroes, if you've never watched it, any of our viewers or listeners, probably one of the greatest first seasons of TV of all time.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
I think the problem with Heroes is that should have been the climax of the entire TV show, them saving the planet. But,
Right.
I think they kind of lost their way a little bit after season 1. After, the world's going to be destroyed, and you prevent it. Sorry for any spoilers out there. If you've never seen Heroes, you're about 5 or 6 years too late. But
Yeah.
After that, it's kind of hard to think of a premise that's going to go above that.
Yeah.
And that maybe they should have maybe did like a slow burn at first, and then kind of ended on that note. But my God, the first season of Heroes is still amazing, and I'm glad they're actually going to try and reboot it. I've seen some articles that still refer to it as a mini series, it's like 13 episodes. So I don't know if this is a one-off or what. But
For right now, I think it's supposed to be a one-off, and it's like a we'll see.
right,
Which
Okay.
is fine. Dude, we're getting more heroes. I don't give a shit.
right.
Give me more heroes.
And I was glad to see they're bringing back a lot of the original characters from Heroes. So
You
that's,
cannot do heroes without Hiro Nakamura. I mean,
Right.
it would not be the same.
Of course, they've got the man with the horn rimmed glasses, the policeman I saw was coming back.
Yep.
Did you see anybody else? That was the
From
doctor.
the original
Is the
show, I
doctor
think
in
it's
it, maybe.
oh, the Haitian dude. The guy who's like the anti-power, like his power subdues the rest of their powers. He's back in it. I can't
Okay.
remember his name, but the Haitian guy. Didn't they just call him the Haitian? Like
Yeah, I
that
believe
was his
so.
name or something.
I believe so.
So yeah, he's in it. That's the only bunch that I can think of.
But that's really exciting. Never thought we'd get to see heroes again, and that's really one of the great failures of NBC. I think was
Yeah,
because that show was so hyped after that first season, and just to kind of fall off like it did.
yeah,
It was pretty epic at the time how bad it
yeah.
ended. But glad to see that we're possibly going to get a reboot.
That would be nice.
Did you want
Speaking
to?
of reboots, oh, not a reboot, but we'll say continuation. We're getting the X Files back on
Oh
television.
yeah, yeah.
A limited, I guess,
How many
12 or 13,
episodes? Okay.
12 or 13, I think, something like that. So we're just getting that. That seems to be like almost the formula these days, where you get, seasons are getting shorter, but I mean, the upside is that they can crank them out a lot faster. When you're not stuck doing 22 to 24 episodes, you could put one out or put 2 seasons out within the less than the course of 1 year. So I, for one, dude, we're getting new X Files. No, not a reboot with two total strangers like fucking Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, the people you want in the X Files, and
Right.
this is like 20 years later. What happens after? The world's changed. Post 9/11 and all this other stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle it.
Is X Files still up on Netflix, or did they take it down?
Yes.
Okay.
So last I looked, it was
I think
less than a week ago.
I think that's something that I need to go back and just
Sure.
rewatch, because it's been years and years since I've watched any X Files, and I just am curious to see on how it's aged since I
Yeah.
watched it back in the day. But man, that was a great show. I remember sitting around with my parents watching that every week.
hmm
So
It's probably going to be cheesy as shit now, because it's like mid 90s. People are going to be like, oh, this was so violent. Now we look at it these days where we have like The Walking Dead where people are getting torn apart on basic cable.
right,
It's like, no, like this really didn't push that many boundaries, not
right.
by today's standards. But like I said, we're getting X Files on TV. So nerds, yeah, we've got it made right now.
Well, since you're the DC man, do you want to cover the movies?
Absolutely, because I've got so much to say about both of these. The two elephants in the room these days that seem to be dividing people. Okay, so let's first talk about Suicide Squad, since that's the smaller of the two movies, the other being Batman v Superman. Okay, so I'm very familiar with this, the Suicide Squad. They've touched on it on Arrow and Flash, actually, where they've actually had episodes involving the Suicide Squad. Where you even, I don't think we'll ever see this again, but just little mini spoiler for Arrow, where you see a girl with her back to you inside of a cell with blonde ponytails sticking out and this very, very familiar high-pitched voice kind of talking in like psychobabble, and it's very obvious who it is. It's Harley Quinn. They never show her face or anything like that, but I mean, they've done whole episodes of the Suicide Squad on the show where Deadshot and Deathstroke and everybody, the rest of these guys are involved. So I definitely love the concept and the idea and the characters. The movie itself, like the trailer itself, they've definitely got the right idea. That they're the bad guys basically. Cutting them loose and to do good and trying to control them. It's a little bit cliched in its premise, where like, oh, they're trying to think for themselves, blah 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 blah. If they do anything wrong, we're just going to pull the switch and their heads are going to explode. That's been done plenty of times, but at the same time, the one thing that annoyed me, I know that this is really going to divide the audience here because it seems to be hot, cold, no gray area on this. I am not a fan of the Joker in this. I'm not. And I know a lot of people are. They think it's Jared Leto and he's brilliant and blah, 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 blah. And dude, guys, he's a freaking fine actor. For anyone who's seen Dallas Buyers Club, he was spectacular in that movie. That was so awesome. But at the same time, guys, the grill and the tats are just fucking killing it for me. And what really irritates me about that is that the producers of the movie flat out lied. When that picture of him, in the Home Alone face came out and like the internet imploded because people were like, this sucks, and some people were like, this is brilliant, which is how it always happens with this shit. They said that they were just doing that because it was the anniversary of the Joker and it was an enhanced picture and stuff like that, and the ink and the grill, like none of that's going to appear in the movie. So I was like, okay, disaster averted. Anyone who's seen the trailer knows that's bullshit. He's wearing the ink. He's got the grill. The fan theory as far as why he's got the grill, which is something I figured out in the first 5 seconds, Batman likely knocked out all his teeth. Okay, does that make logical sense? And would that probably happen with the way Batman rolls? Yes. And that's great that it makes logical sense. But guys, you are literally, by doing this, dumbing down the most recognizable trait of the Joker. When people think the Joker, they think the, quote, Joker smile. And now he looks like fucking Flava Flav. What the hell? Like, why would you think that would make him more interesting? He looks stupid. Like, it just looks so dumb. Like, I don't care how grounded in reality is. I don't care if it's grounded in reality. I don't care how many beatings Batman has given him. I want him to still have his teeth. I don't care how stupid that is. Like, I don't care how unrealistic that is. I want him to be like, have the Jack Nicholson Joker smile, because that's what he's supposed to look like. So that was my one big beef with that. Other than that, Will Smith as Deadshot.
That's my big
stretch.
That's my big thing, and I don't know. Like, everything Will Smith has been in lately, it's like he has his hand in it. Like, I want my character to do this. I want to be the lovable bad guy in this, and I want to be the sympathetic bad guy. I want to be the sympathetic assassin in this. But, like, I don't know. His past few movies have been not that great.
Box office poison, I think, is putting it lightly.
Focus wasn't that good. I watched that last week. And what was the... After Earth. Ugh. Yeah, that was terrible. But I'm hoping this is good. I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt.
I will too. I'm gonna give it a shot.
I'm actually kind of in the other camp of the Joker. I think it is interesting just to see a different aspect. Out of all the Jokers, they've all brought something different to the table. Jack Nicholson was the over the top Joker, very campy. A lot of that was probably Tim Burton's direction. Heath Ledger, to me, is the quintessential, like, lunatic. I mean, I think that's as good as it gets. He definitely deserved the Oscar that year. And this, is something completely different. I'm just interested to see what he brings to the character. Whether it's good or not, I guess we'll see. I'm not going to, say it's going to be bad or good. A lot of people are throwing out, this is going to be fucking terrible and all that. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to wait and see. But it's definitely one of those trailers that, and it's very few times this happens now, but it's one of those trailers that gives you goosebumps. That and Batman versus Superman, which I'm sure we'll cover in a minute. But yes. And Star Wars. I mean, like, there's just not many movies now that do that, and that really open your imagination to what's going on in the movie. And I think it's going to be good. I definitely really enjoyed the Zack Snyder Superman and his
Man of Steel. I did too.
And I don't get
lifelong Superman fan here, dude. I'm a fucking lifer of the character. Anyways, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just don't get people's hate for Zack Snyder.
I don't either.
He's made some great fucking movies.
I know. It's like everyone forget how good 300 was.
Yeah, I mean 300
and that was a comic book movie, and he fucking destroyed that movie.
And it was fucking looks. I mean, if it's the closest thing to the actual source material as it can be. I mean, it looked great. Now, Sucker Punch was a stink fest. I mean, it was horrible. Let's admit that. But
Zack
Dawn of
Snyder's
the
like,
Dead was.
I should go back to comic books now.
I
What,
love
but
Dawn of
dude,
the Dead.
Watchmen. We cannot forget
Dude,
Watchmen.
I love Watchmen, and there's
Me
so many
too.
people that hate that movie, and oh, that
Why?
I don't get it, and I've
It's
got the
so close to the comic book. Like they changed the stupid octopus thing at the end was like the only thing they left out. I'm like, what
and
more do you want?
Rorschach was everything I imagined him to be,
Yes.
and you know, I've got the graphic novel, I've got the comic books, the Alan
Yeah.
Moore comic books, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't get it. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that love to hate Zack Snyder, but
I like Zack Snyder.
I
But no,
loved
Dawn of the Dead,
Man
you're
of
right.
Yeah, I mean,
One of his first
pretty much
movies, dude, he
everything,
killed it.
pretty much everything he's put out has been
Yeah.
great except for Sucker Punch, and
Yeah.
you know, Sucker Punch, they probably just gave him free reign to do whatever after 300.
Zack Snyder, he needs a writer.
Yeah.
Like he does. Like Dawn of the Dead, for example, was written by James Gunn, who did Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know that.
It's not a big. He also wrote Scooby Doo, which is like,
Yeah.
well, he
What was
can't
going
win them
on
all,
with
but no, I mean, he comes back and he writes after Scooby Doo. He writes the Dawn of the Dead one. I was like, it's written by the fucking Scooby Doo guy. What the hell does he know about zombies? But dude, Dawn of the Dead, the remake, and I'm sure I'm gonna get some freaking hate from the Romero fans, guys. I love the original Romero movies; they're fucking awesome. But I'm gonna call a spade here. The second Dawn of the Dead is head and shoulders above the original. As far as what's the better movie, infinitely better than the original. I love the original Dawn of the Dead, but they was like, oh, they're not slow zombies. Slow zombies are scarier. Okay, guys, that's subjective. I don't think a slow zombie is scary. I think a zombie
fast
that runs
zombie.
like a fucking Kenyan,
Right.
that shit is scary.
Right.
Because you can't just be like weaving in and out of them. You know, like, no, you actually have to run, you know, or better yet, need a car. And that was the whole thing with adding Andy, you know, the guy who's on the other side of the freaking lot, you know, adding a character who wasn't in the mall that they could communicate with. I was like, guys, this is what makes a good writer. I understand it's a plot device, but it's a really fucking great plot device.
Right.
Like, this gives us so much exposition and a dynamic between the characters because they're not that far apart. They're like a couple hundred yards apart physically, but it might as well be the fucking Atlantic Ocean because there's an ocean of the freaking undead waiting down there to rip them apart. So let's talk about Batman vs Superman, obviously, since we're going on a Zack Snyder tirade here. Okay, this one is definitely dividing people a lot more than Suicide Squad, and I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, Robert, love you, buddy, who he's not a DC hater. He's really not. He is almost as big of a fan of Superman as I am. We've had many conversations about it, but as far as the movies, he's kind of more on the Marvel side. You know, he's definitely leaning towards that. He wanted Man of Steel to be good, but like a lot of people, he was just really disappointed. Like, I want to see the Big Blue Boy Scout and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, guys, I'm all for that, man. Like, I really am. I'm for Superman being fucking Superman. But at the same time, I'm one of the few people who instantly got it in the end of Man of Steel. Spoilers for like all three of you who haven't seen it. When he snapped Zod's neck, like in that instance, maybe it's just Henry Cavill being an experienced actor. It immediately registered with me what that moment signified. That this was basically Superman becoming the Big Blue Boy Scout. Like, because he literally had to kill the last of his kind, basically singularly orphaning himself and making himself the last Kryptonian. In that motion, even though, you know, did Zod have it coming? Did he deserve to die? Absolutely. He's a fucking murdering psychopath. Yes, he needed to go. But Superman literally destroyed what was left of Krypton, with the exception of him, to save Earth. And at the same time, that made perfect sense to me why that moment would be the reason why he chooses not to kill. You know, for the same reason that Batman chooses not to kill, because it happened to his parents. And he's like, I don't want anyone to feel like me. I think Superman in this version is kind of taking that same path. He doesn't want anyone to have to feel what he had to feel, to kill one of his own kind, because let's face it, Superman is the ultimate immigrant. He's the last of his species, and there's no one else in the universe like him. Like, him being himself makes him inherently different. You know, he's always going to have to walk a different path from everybody just because he's not human. He's a fucking alien. So, you know, a literal alien. So I applauded Zack Snyder for taking that risk. You know, this is the first time on screen we've ever seen Superman take a life. And all the people are like, Superman's never fucking done this. All right, first of all, if you're saying that, you don't know shit about comic books, all right? Superman has actually killed several people. It's not been in a murderous, like, his brain's being taken over kind of way. No, he just recently destroyed an entire planet accidentally with his new power called, well, yeah, he did technically, but he has a new power called solar flare, which is basically an extension of heat vision where, as Batman explained it, Superman's cells, I'm going to totally geek out with you guys here, you're about to be fucking science, so buckle up. Superman's cells, each of them individually, are like miniature solar batteries where they basically contain solar radiation, which make him who he is. And he inadvertently, throughout the course of this particular comic book arc, accidentally unleashes the solar energy from every cell in his body all at once. So it's kind of like heat vision without any control, like where he's basically setting off a solar bomb. And you've seen what he can do just with heat vision in Man of Steel. He's cutting buildings in half like a fucking chainsaw. Imagine a nuclear bomb powered by that same technology. It literally destroyed an entire planet. And he took the bad guy with him. Granted, he didn't do that willingly. He just got pissed at this guy and, yeah, fuck him. I'm going to take out his whole planet too. And he doesn't remember anything. He wakes up and he's like, what happened? And Batman's like, I think you basically created a solar bomb. So I could, going back to the core subject here, Batman vs. Superman, I think, and I'll never be able to say this for sure, and even if they go on record explaining this as far as, was this the plan the entire time? Was this, you know, going to be the direction that they were going to head with the movies? Or was this a reaction to people not liking the end of Man of Steel, where, you know, he's knocking down buildings and like Metropolis is basically in ruins as a result of his actions? To be fair, all the Marvel fanboys saying that same thing. Guys, did you see the fucking Avengers? New York was a fucking bomb zone after they were done. I didn't hear anyone complaining about that. And I think they did probably a lot more damage. They're like, well, the aliens were invading New York. Okay, guys, Superman was dealing with a world engine. What the hell did you want him to do? Just move it to Ontario or something like that? Or the North Pole? He fought the bad guys where they were, same as the Avengers did. So let's cut the bullshit here.
I've got a question real quick.
Yeah, shoot it.
You know, in all this discussion about them destroying the cities, was the point lost on anybody that we're talking about a fucking movie, that there wasn't really there wasn't really destruction? Guys, it's okay. Metropolis isn't real. It really didn't get destroyed. New York City's okay. You know, monsters didn't, you know, come through and destroy the city. Guys, we're talking about a fucking movie.
I know. And a comic book movie, no less.
But see, one thing that I loved about Man of Steel was it was the one Superman movie to me that showed Superman's real power. You know, I mean, if two basically gods are fighting each other, a building isn't going to be shit. And I mean, you know, cutting buildings in half with your heat vision, like that is how it would be in real life. And
pretty much,
regardless of how many dollars in damage they did or whatever, you know, I think that's what it would be like if two gods were to do battle. And even though, you know, Superman's not a god, but I mean, you know, of course, in our planet, I mean, I don't know one superhero that really comes close to
I'm sure all the Superman's power. Thor and the Hulk, guys, really? Seriously? Like, against Superman? Like, no, I don't think so. Somebody's got to be at the top. Why not him?
And we're just talking about the invulnerability and the ability to fly and all that. I mean, he's got everything, you know?
Unless you have kryptonite, you don't stand a chance. That's literally... Or you can block out the sun, and in which case, all you're going to do is make him run his battery down. That's really the way he works. He's a giant moving solar battery. So as long as Earth has the yellow sun and it's still shining, he's not going to run out of juice. It's just that simple. So, okay, so on to the trailer. Okay. In my opinion, God, I hope I'm right about this. I think that this was the plan the entire time. I do not think that this was a knee-jerk reaction to people being mad about what we were just talking about, with buildings being knocked down and them addressing it. If this is actually them kind of catching up to pop culture, guys, bravo. That's smart writing because they're rolling with the punch. Like, okay, well, why don't we make this work in the movie? Making Batman there at ground zero while this was actually happening, given who Bruce Wayne is, it's not a stretch of the imagination that he would have a building in Metropolis if it's supposed to be this huge New York-sized city in the middle of the heartland, out west that doesn't actually exist. It would make total sense that Wayne Enterprises would have a building there, and he might have been there on business or something, maybe to talk to Lex Luthor or, something, because he's a, freaking mover and a shaker, right? And just seeing like Bruce Wayne look up at the building, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, I don't know if you have seen this, but they tweeted a little vine showing how the two movies perfectly sync, where Zod is using his heat vision, and it shows the perspective of Bruce Wayne where you see the heat vision cutting through the building. It literally matches up perfectly. Like they put that much thought into this, where you can see these two things happen in real time. It's a 1-to-1. I was like, wow, they really did their homework. And does it make sense that someone like Bruce Wayne, who is the definition of paranoid, in a good way, I'm not saying it's bad, he is the ultimate paranoid superhero, because he always has to be ahead of everyone else. Would he see Superman as a threat? Absolutely. I mean, because this is like his first run-in with a metahuman, or in Superman's case, an alien, someone who's all of his technology and everything. It's just like, at the end of the day, dude, I mean, like you said, Superman's a god. I mean, it's like this dude is basically so far beyond humans' capabilities, even with technology. It's just, unless you got kryptonite, you don't stand a chance. Would he see Superman as a threat? Totally. And would he see, like, him being there in the aftermath? It was very 9/11-ish. If you watch it, it almost looked like, it reminded me at least of the towers coming down, and somebody standing there at ground zero, like this kind of 9/11 level event where a major city is basically demolished because of, well, I guess you could call Zod's team terrorists. I mean, they were trying to take over the world, basically. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Superman stopped the terrorists and saved the goddamn planet. Yeah, okay, so we had to sacrifice one city. 6 billion lives were saved. Yeah, okay, I think that's noteworthy. And I think it's cool that we all know how it's going to end, that they're going to put their differences aside and realize that neither of them are right, or neither of them are wrong, and both of them are right. They have different approaches to things. Like Batman's thing is paranoid and planning and everything like that, and Superman is Superman. Like, he always looks for the good in people. He always tries to diffuse the situation rather than resulting to violence. And I think Zack Snyder really nailed it in the end of Man of Steel, when Superman's standing there and he took down a satellite because they were basically trying to spy on him. They're like, we're just not sure what your intentions are from America. And he's like, really? I'm from Kansas, dude. I mean, it's just like, Superman is America. He's baseball. He's apple pie. He's from the heartland, for God's sake. He was raised on a fucking farm. I mean, like, how much more American can you be, dude? He's the ultimate country boy. I mean, he refers to himself all that. He's like, like Batman, he's an urbanite. I'm just a country boy, who happens to be from a different fucking planet. But it's, I, as a fan of both of these things, and in the comics, guys, they're best friends. Bruce Wayne and Clark are pals. Do they agree on everything? No. As a matter of fact, the majority of the time, they disagree. When in one of the more recent arcs, when Batman actually, Bruce Wayne, quote unquote, died, although that didn't really happen, there's a conversation between Superman and Wonder Woman where Clark is always just like, I never thought Bruce really liked me all that much. I figured he just tolerated me. And then Diana has this look on her face of absolute bewilderment. Like, she's like, are you serious? She's like, he had nothing but respect for you. He actually looked up to you in certain capacities. He didn't agree with everything on you, but he saw you for what you were, as like the ultimate good guy, that you would always do the right thing. And it's seeing the dichotomy between these two characters, because they are so diametrically opposed, almost to the point of almost being superhero versus supervillain in some weird alternate universe, even though they're both on the same side. Batman is the brains, the tactics, the strategy, the last guy in the world that you want to play chess against. Because when you sit down at the table, he's already going to have you beat. He's going to be 50 moves ahead of you. And Superman is just a force of nature. I mean, he's literally bulletproof, bomb-proof, everything but kryptonite-proof. He's the ultimate tank that you would want on your team when you're facing a supervillain. And on top of that, we're getting Wonder Woman, we're getting Aquaman, we're getting the Flash, like all this in small doses leading up to the next movie, the Justice League movie. Guys, I think that's fantastic. And I'm going to have to call out Pat the NES Punk on this one, Pat. Love you guys. Okay, so Pat called Gal Gadot not very. He didn't regard her as, I'll call, exceptionally tall, because they were giving her a little bit of flack, for playing Wonder Woman. He's like, I don't think the build is right and stuff like that. Yeah, guys, does she look like a professional bodybuilder? No, she's a woman from Israel. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. But not calling her exceptionally tall, guys, she's 5'10". That would make her a supermodel, and they kind of only take exceptionally tall. And his take on it, like, Wonder Woman's 6'2" and blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, in the comics she is, because she's an Amazon. She's not a human. Okay, well, Superman is supposed to be 6'4", and Henry Cavill is only 6'1". So, am I that upset about? No, guys, come on, we're splitting hairs here. She's not. She's 5 inches taller than the average woman. Does that make her freakishly tall? Above 6 feet? No. But how many 5'10" girls do you see walking around who aren't wearing heels? In my neck of the woods, not that many.
Well, they don't necessarily have to cast somebody that's that tall. I mean, movie magic, they can.
I know.
I mean,
has anyone seen The Lord of the Rings, for God's sake?
Right. And Tom Cruise is in a ton of movies, and he's like,
and he's 5'7".
Right.
So it's like,
and he doesn't look like a midget, compared to
he doesn't.
Anybody else.
I think
but
that's the best movie magic ever, is that they make Tom Cruise not look short.
Right.
Yeah, or Robert Downey Jr., for example. He's 5'7" too, and he plays Iron Man. In your opinion, is 5'10" acceptable for somebody who's playing Wonder Woman?
I think so.
I think that's, for someone who can act and who's naturally beautiful, because all the Amazons are, they're like this super race of godlike, beautiful women who are the size of men. I mean, she's eye to eye with Superman in the comic books. Like, she's the only woman, aside from maybe Supergirl, who can stand up to Superman. Like, she could take a direct hit in the face and be like, is that all you got, bitch? I mean, it's... And seeing her doing the bracers and shit, guys, I was ecstatic. I mean, like, we haven't seen Wonder Woman, really, since Linda Carter.
Right.
Since the fucking 70s, man. It's like, come on. How can you not be excited for this?
It's hard to do Wonder Woman. I'm really excited to see how they pull it off without it, being cheesy. And from what it looks like, it's looking like it's going to be pretty sweet so far. And yeah, I just don't get the people hating on Ben Affleck as Batman. I mean, everything he's been in lately, he's been knocking it out of the park. The Town, Gone Girl. I mean, come on.
Has everyone forgotten that Ben Affleck's failures are like this and his wins are like this? Right. It's like, guys, he and Matt Damon hold the world record for the youngest people ever to receive the writing Oscar. The first movie he wrote won a fucking Oscar. Holy shit. I mean, like, who else did that? Sylvester Stallone for Rocky.
Right.
And he was almost the same age. He was, I think, 3 years older than them. So they basically kicked him out of the record by being the youngest guys ever to win an Oscar. And yeah, The Town, Argo, which he wrote, directed, and starred in. Mm-hmm. Guys, he's not an idiot. I mean, he's really, they're treating him like he's some kind of a hack or something who's only done like piece of shit movies and stuff. I mean, guys, has he done some stinkers? Sure. So is Anthony Hopkins.
Right. I mean,
so is Daniel Day-Lewis.
He's so so past Geely and Jersey Girl and all that shit, And
so he did some pieces of shit. Big deal.
He did Daredevil, and Daredevil wasn't the greatest movie, but that's in the past now. So, but like with Suicide Squad, I'm gonna keep my mind open. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to say it's great or not yet, but or it's going to be great. But Zack Snyder, the past few comic book movies that he's made, 300, Watchmen, Man of Steel have all been great. So
I couldn't agree more.
I'm gonna trust him on this. I'm gonna trust that he knows what he's doing.
I thought I have watched so many times the flight sequence where he first learns to fly from Man of Steel on YouTube, probably a couple of dozen times. That I thought was the best example of showing what it would be like for a guy basically learning to master how to fly, because it's all in his head. He's basically forcing levitation. And if he fails the first time, it's not like, I know I'm going to get some hate on this, but the Christopher Reeve version where he just like flies out of the cave like it's effortless the first time. That's not how it would work. He may have the powers, but it's like the fucking Matrix. Everyone falls the first time. Yes, like he's gonna fail the first time. That movie was basically him learning what it means to be Superman. He's
And
not going to get everything right the first time because, yeah, he's an alien, but guys, he was raised as a human and we are known for our mistakes. That's what we do best is fuck up. But we also learn to be better than that. So, I mean, dude, for my money, dude, that was the most human of all the Superman movies. That showed that Superman, yes, he's an alien, yes, he's a god, but as far as who he is, he's one of us. He's a human. He's going to screw things up. And I'm sure he's going to atone for that in this next one. I'm sure Batman wants to tear him an asshole and be like, do you have any idea what you've done?
right.
You know, I just want to see, I want to see the exchange between them that has happened before in the comics that I think is the best singular exchange of one conversation between two superheroes when they first meet, where Batman's just like, he's like, you can't exist. Like, no one being should have this kind of power. And then Superman's like, I'm a duly appointed officer of the United Nations. You're an outlaw. Like, because that's really the way it is. Like, Superman is like the police of the world, and Batman just does whatever he wants.
Right.
So I'm really, I'll close and say I'm really looking forward to this, guys. I'm really excited, and I hope it's going to be great. I really hope they get this one right.
Well, that's pretty much it. We haven't seen Ant-Man yet, but it's getting pretty good reviews, so I'm excited to see it today. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go tonight to watch it. So we'll definitely talk about that next week.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you can think of?
Yes.
That you want to cover?
There's a clip going around the internet that I have a few things I'd like to comment on. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it right now, where they ask all these Hollywood types basically a nerd question that I think is awesome. For any of you not in the know, I have a new weekly series that happens on Mondays called Retro Rumble, where I basically do this exact kind of thing that they do in the video. I take two pop culture things, whether it be video games, movies, television, you know, things from the past, and I put them in a room and say, you know, if these two forces had to meet, who would win? You know, we've done the X-Wing versus the R-Wing, you know, Jack Burton versus Buckaroo Banzai, like everything. Anything pop culture is fair game. So check it out, Mondays on the Jimbo channel, please. Thank you. Shameless plug. So in this video, they put up two against each other that I'm honestly pissed I didn't think of. So I got to give them credit for that. So we have the Millennium Falcon versus the Starship Enterprise. So opinions aside on this, on who would win, guys, that's not really the point of why we're talking about this. I was honestly amazed because they asked people from all different facets of Hollywood, like actors from Game of Thrones, directors, writers, people in big movies, people on television, who they thought would win. And Tyler, I think over half, probably maybe 60% of the people they talked to had no fucking idea what either of these two things are. And I was thinking, like, not all, they weren't talking to the Miley Cyruses and the Justin Biebers that were like these, you know, young, you know, idiots who have way too much money to actually be able to think. We're talking people that are older than Tyler and I, meaning they were around probably for the first Star Trek. They were around when Star Wars actually came out in theaters. So it's not a generational gap. I'm just amazed that, considering that this is literally what they do for a living. They are in the throes of pop culture. And Star Wars and Star Trek, I don't think is a stretch to say, are two of the most iconic anythings to ever grace pop culture. It's almost like the Coke and Pepsi of movies and television. You know, which one is better? You know, it's that's probably the original nerd debate. What's better, Star Wars or Star Trek? You know, that was probably the first nerd fight. And these people were clueless. They're like, well, the Millennium Falcon. And they're like, okay, why? They're like, I don't know, because it sounds better. I'm like,
I like the name.
What the fuck, man? Like, how do you not know what this is? Like, what kind of rock were you living in? Were you living in the fucking Vault-Tec vault or something? You know, for the last 40 years that you don't know who Captain Kirk is? You don't know who Han Solo is? That is incredibly unprofessional, considering that this is the industry that you work in, and you don't know what that is. But the dude from Game of Thrones, I forget his name, and I'm totally losing nerd cred now, the old guy who was hanging out with Stannis Baratheon, gave a super cool answer, one of the super cool answers. He was like, oh, the Millennium Falcon, no doubt. And they're like, why? He's like, he's got a better pilot. I was like, he's got a point. Like, they do have Han Solo and Chewbacca. And then Adam Savage, the Mythbusters, who not surprisingly, gave us an incredibly scientific answer as far as why the Enterprise would win. Because let's remember, folks, he's an engineer, so that's the way he's going to approach this. Like, which, from an engineering perspective, would win? And of course, he picks the Enterprise. And he actually pulled a nerd card, and he made a reference to an actual Star Trek episode on The Next Generation, where Worf is like, there's some antiquated ship was attacking the Enterprise, and like, oh, they're shooting lasers at us, as if they're throwing rocks. You know, it's like,
Right.
lasers, that's for kids. We have fucking photon torpedoes, for God's sakes. But to go on record as far as who would win, guys, let's cut through the bullshit here. Is the Millennium Falcon awesome? Yes. Is Han Solo awesome? Yes. Is Chewbacca awesome? Yes. Is Star Wars fucking awesome? There is not one bone in my body that will ever disagree with that. Guys, the USS Enterprise, we're talking about a blue whale against a nurse shark as far as size. This is a Galaxy-class warship whose singular purpose is to wipe out other enemy ships. That's why it was built. This is the nuclear submarine of space. It has one purpose: to kill other subs. That's the whole reason it exists. The Millennium Falcon, it's a smuggler ship. Yes. Does it have defenses? Yes. Can it attack? Yes. Did it help take down the Death Star? Yes. In a small kind of way. Yes, it did. But guys, it's not taking on Star Destroyers. I would venture a guess that the Enterprise would probably take out the fucking Death Star. If it had a clear line of sight and a couple of photon torpedoes, it would probably blow a goddamn hole through it. So it's, guys, no. The Millennium Falcon holds like 20 or 30 people. The Starship Enterprise is basically a moving city. I mean, and all these people are soldiers, for God's sake. They're professionals. They're not criminals. So anyways, that's my take on it. Tyler, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that the purpose of the Enterprise isn't to kill other ships.
In my opinion, it is.
It's to go boldly where no one has gone before.
Oh, shut up. Oh my God, really?
I'm sorry, I had to.
Come on, dude. It's an attack ship, for God's sake. It's the pride of the freaking Starship, Federation fleet. This is their flagship, so to speak.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. The Enterprise would destroy the Millennium Falcon. I mean, the Falcon would be fucking with their hyperdrive, the entire time before. I mean, they couldn't even get out of the way, but I wanted to cover. Their shit would be broken. They're sitting there getting
take the professor and plug him in the back and fix the fucking hyperdrive. And the Enterprise would just be like, boop, just vaporize it.
I was going to ask you, did you participate in the huge fucking fail that was Amazon Prime Day? Did you go on and look?
I actually wanted to ask you about that. No. What happened? Bring me up to speed.
Well, Amazon Prime was supposedly going to have this huge sale that was going to be bigger than Black Friday. And so I was, going to get on it. I thought that'd be a good time to, check out some games. Mm-hmm. And, get them for a decent price because, that's always the great thing to do on Black Friday is all the games, that they put on sale like Best Buy, GameStop, and all that. You can get the same deal on Amazon, not have to, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But anyways, I would go on, and it's just the biggest pile of shit that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they have sales on shit that you don't want nor need. And it was like you're going to a giant garage sale. And I take that quote because that was a quote that was used in several articles online that all these people were saying that it was like a giant garage sale. But, I mean, there were no games on sale. Now, I did pick up 2 scores on Amazon Prime Day. This was the highlight of the day. I got The Wizard.
Oh God, that's the highlight.
That was the highlight of the day, and I got the Game Over, which is the Atari them digging up ET in the desert, the documentary that they did on that. So
ET didn't actually get home, guys. ET's buried in the desert. That poor bastard. Actually dug him up. He's like, phone. I'm like, ah, like beating him with shovels and shit.
That was the director's cut. But
Can you imagine that? Oh my god.
but anyway, so that was all I picked up on Amazon Prime Day. So it was a pretty big flop. Um, Also, I just want to talk about real quick
Yeah.
to let our viewers know the art of video games is currently in Memphis right now. It's a Smithsonian exhibit um, that is traveling around now to different cities, and I think it's going to be there until maybe late August, early September. But I went to check it out, and it's really, really cool exhibit. Starts out from the basically the um, beginning of video games, and it's really neat. It has it's an interactive art exhibit, and you walk through. You start at the beginning, and you can play examples from each era of video games. So the first example was Pac-Man in the arcade,
Of course.
and you can press buttons on the wall, and you can list. They have about 4 examples for each system of the games, and they talk about what's going on in the game and the objectives and all that, and how that game was revolutionary, but for that system or whatever. But you walk through, and it goes up until basically like the PS3, Wii, and 360, and pretty much every video game system's there, so you can walk through. I think for the PS3 they had like Flower, they had Super Mario where you could play it, and throughout the exhibit, they had some really cool original art from like World of Warcraft, like the early sketches from Blizzard,
Wow.
from Fallout. They had well, it wasn't original Fallout, but it was Fallout 3. They had some of the original sketches from that game, posted where you could, look at them. But I wish I could have gotten some pictures of the stuff, but of course, there was no photography. But a really cool
Sucks.
display. But I really encourage all of you out there to maybe in the Memphis area to definitely check that out. And, be on the lookout for where it's going to go to next, and check it out in whatever city it's going to be at if you're close to that area, because it's a really neat display of our retro culture, and I'm glad that it's definitely getting the recognition now that it deserves, and that video games are actually art, and they're getting that respect now. So
Awesome. I'm sad that I missed it, guys. I'm close to the DC metropolitan area, and there's more DCs. There's more museums here per square mile than probably anywhere on the planet. And I'm no stranger to the Smithsonian. I'm actually kind of pissed that I missed it, but maybe it'll come back around. If it does, I'm definitely not going to miss it a second time. But we'll see. That's epic.
but
I have one more thing I want to mention before we close it out and get out of TV and movies. Something I heard about the other day. Don't know much about it as it was just announced, but I think it definitely has promise. A lot of you are probably not going to remember this, but anyone who's the age of Tyler and myself probably will. This is kind of a hidden gem from the 80s. Movie way back when called The Last Starfighter, which was such a big deal when it came out, actually. I mean, this was like during the hype, the peak of Star Wars and everything like that, where space movies were basically at their crescendo. And they're apparently going to reboot this as a television series, which I think actually kind of makes more sense than doing it as a movie, because this would be a much longer narrative. Just getting to tell the story of basically a kid who's really good at a video game, and the video game itself is a recruitment tool for an alien race of starfighter pilots, I guess, whose job is to protect the galaxy. So I think that that's absolutely awesome, but they're going to take this one step further, apparently. And for those people who have Oculus Rift style headsets, there will be portions of the TV show where you can actually hook your Rift, I guess, into your TV or whatnot, and look around the scene as it's happening in real time on the show. So it's almost like you're there inside the television show. And I personally think that that's fucking amazing. I think that that's a game changer for movies, for television, for all this stuff. And at the same time, this is a franchise I actually enjoy. I love the original movie, man. It's very dated, but it's very fun. It's still a really, really cool concept. And, just getting to incorporate something like Oculus Rift with the VR technology into this completely different medium where it was originally created for video games and now we're going to incorporate it into television, I think just speaks to the notion of that video games are literally changing media. Not just video game media, but all media. It's changing the way that we see, do, and interact with things, whether it be movies and television. I think that's a really super cool thing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with this.
Kind of loosely associated with that, next week or the week after, I think it's next week, I'm actually going to go to a book signing. A lot of you are familiar with Ernest Cline. He wrote Ready Player One, which definitely relates to what Jimbo was just talking about, because in Ready Player One, it's pretty much everybody in the book uses what they call the Oasis, which is a virtual reality system. And a lot of you that have read the book know it's really a love letter to retro gamers and retro video games. Great book, definitely check it out. But his new book, Armada, just came out, and it has a lot of the it's kind of the same flavor of The Last Starfighter. So if you like that movie and that premise, Armada definitely follows along with that, and it's still in the same vein as Ready Player One. I know Will Wheaton from Star Trek, and of course, from YouTube,
Geek and Sundry.
He does the audiobooks. So my buddy picked up the audiobook, said that he did Armada too, and I know a lot of people really liked him as the narrator for Ready Player One. But I'm excited to go down there and get him to sign my books and meet the guy. And, they're actually working on Ready Player One as a movie right now. And supposedly Spielberg's going to direct it or either produce it. I hope he directs it, but, that could be a great movie. So definitely excited about that. Have you got anything else, Jimbo, you think we haven't covered this week?
I think we probably talked these people into slumber already, but you know what? I hope everyone who's still listening has honestly had a good time. This is completely unrehearsed and our first and hopefully not last attempt at a podcast. So if we made any of the typical podcast mistakes, we apologize in advance. We gave this our best.
And guys, we will be getting up a Twitter account and a Facebook page that we can update y'all on. So be on the lookout for that. We'll probably put links for it in the description below. And definitely check out Jimbo's channel at the Jimbo channel here on YouTube. And, of course, my channel, Metroid's Prime, here on YouTube. So definitely check those out. And we'll be back next week for another episode. So if there's no further ado, I guess we will end it here.
All right, game on, Tyler.
All right, game on, Jimbo.